All right, everybody, what's happening? Welcome to today's edition of SWAC Talk, the show we cover the SWAC inside and out. Of course, I am your tour guide around the SWAC. C. Wells coming at you, and want to start off by wishing a happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, especially my mother, Judy Wells. Happy Mother's Day to her. Happy Heavenly Mother's Day to my mother-in-law, Patricia Sin. Happy Mother's Day to my wife, Jessica Wells. Happy Mother's Day to my sisters, Sharon and Yolanda. Moore and Johnson, respectively, Johnson and Moore, respectively. Happy Mother's Day to everybody else out there in my family, and to all you all. Happy Mother's Day to all y'all out there as well. As usual, man, you can see the socials on the screen down below. Make sure you check those out. Hit that Facebook, that's SWACTalk. Instagram is SWACTalk. Twitter is SWACTalk76. And email is SWACTalk76@gmail.com. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Like the video, share them, and feel free to comment on today's topic, which is 2022, the year of the running back in the SWAC, and we're going to talk about that. Also, if you haven't heard by now, we have some SWAC Smoke T-shirts. Man, they coming at you, real hot and heavy. We have black and white. I throw those up on the screen real quick for you. And make sure you copy one. One for 25, two for 40. Make sure you check those out. Holla at my boy DJ. His Instagram is on the screen below. You can hit him up on Instagram and get your order in on that. There's the white shirt, and then here's the black one. So make sure you hit up DJ. I mean, if you want to hit me up since you're on the show right now, you can hit me up and let me know. And we can get everything situated and get you set up. So feel free to get at us, and I'll throw his PayPal link in my description, and of course mine is there. So if you wanna get you a T-shirt, just holler, let us know, and we'll hook you up. So man, let's see what else is on the little housekeeping schedule for now. I think that's about it. Like I said, Wednesday, another edition of SWAC Talk coming at you. Thursday, SWAC Smoke live as usual, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. And man, let's get to it, man. Let's talk about 2022. 2021 was a very good year for running backs. A lot of people were, quarterbacks get the glory. Running backs, they do a lot of work. Especially in modern football, the role of a running back has been changed so much. There's not always the one guy that totes the ball 30 times for you. Teams use a lot of different guys, but there's some star power here. Quarterback was it always drives the narratives with the star power. And in the SWAC last year, there were a lot of really good quarterbacks. So the attention rightfully was on quarterbacks. You had experienced veterans like Akil Glass and Felix Harper. You had young guns like Shador Sanders and Andrew Body coming up. You had explosive guys like Ladarius Skelton, who was up and down last year, but he was a guy coming into the season who was an explosive guy. You have a guy like Rashawn McKay at FAMU, who's a very solid quarterback. You had Skylar Perry coming off of a really nice spring season heading into the fall. There was guys all over, and running backs were pretty steady. A lot of these guys who I'm going to talk about today were, big, guys who were featured backs coming into this past season. But with the amount of quarterbacks moving on and the amount of new quarterbacks coming in, and there's some talent at the quarterback position coming in, and there's still some talent that's left in the SWAC. But I feel like running backs are the key to the car this year. A lot of teams are going to be breaking in new quarterbacks or getting guys who hadn't played that much, getting them more experience. A good running game would definitely help ease the transition. And there are a lot of great backs coming back. And when I say great, I mean great. They all, various shapes and sizes, but they all can tote the load. So we're just gonna go ahead and start, man. We're gonna start talking about the list with the top returner in the SWAC. and that's Gary Quarles, running back from Alabama. And them, he's like 5'6". He's not a big guy, but he can carry the ball for A&M. He last season he had 205 carries for 955 yards. He averaged 4.7 yards per carry, and he had 10 touchdowns, long of 44, and he averaged 95.5 yards per game. He's a guy who can catch the ball out the backfield as well. He caught 21 passes last season for 224 yards. He didn't score a touchdown, but he is a guy who is a big threat in the screen game. If you remember from the spring, he really did a great job with them in their passing attack. So I expect him to continue to be a weapon with this offense, breaking in a new quarterback and being able to carry the ball and catch the ball to the backfield. So he's a guy who I really expect to see to continue to put up numbers. He actually went over 1,000 yards, but his net total put him under 1,000. But if he could have gotten those other 45 yards, we would have had 2,000-yard rushers in the SWAC this past season. And when you look at where the SWAC has come from in the late to mid 2000s to now, the running game has really picked up. Teams are still throwing the ball a lot, but teams are realizing that they have to run it, and there are some really capable guys. One of my favorite guys, and probably to me, maybe the best running back in the league, and he doesn't get the attention that he deserves, is Caleb Johnson from Mississippi Valley. I had the pleasure to watch this dude do work in person, and you really can appreciate his change of direction. He can start and stop. He can put his head down. He can get the yards. He's durable. He had over 235 carries on the season, so he's a guy that you can give the ball to multiple times. He had more than 55% of Valley's carries this past season, so he's a guy who is gonna touch the ball a lot. He ran the ball 235 times for 1,018 yards, 4.3 yards per carry, and 8 touchdowns. And that's all on an offense where people knew he was gonna get the ball. Valley doesn't throw the ball a lot, and they don't throw deep a lot. And he's the focused weapon. This is a team that doesn't have a lot of weapons. They're a team who is gonna be behind a lot in games, but he can still carry the ball, even with that extra attention, even with those extra carries. He still got over 1,000 yards. I remember coming into the 2021 season, from like the 2019 to 2020 time period, people were saying, watch out for this dude from Valley. He's gonna be an all SWAC back. And you hear that and you think, well, he's from Valley. I don't really see him being able to do that game in and game out. And that's no disrespect to Valley, because Valley's had some great running backs over the years, going all the way back to a guy that I remember in Carl Bynum back in the 80s. But, this is a guy who can carry the ball for you all the time. And he's going to get the yardage for you, as you can see. And he's going to make plays. Now, he didn't have an explosive season. His longest run was 33, but he averaged 92.5 yards per game. And that's on a team that, did not have the best offense or even anywhere near, what I would consider a top offense on the season. This is an offense that averaged 19 points a game. And they averaged 311 yards total offense, and they passed the ball for an average of 167 yards. So you knew what Valley was going to do. They did not do a lot. They actually did run the ball fairly well at 143 yards per game, but you knew what this team had and you knew what they were going to do, and he still was able to lead the league in total yardage on the ground, and just be a big-time factor. So I really, really enjoy watching this guy play, and I know that he's a guy who can really make some things happen. Kobe Dillon is a guy from Southern. He finished 4th in the league in rushing. He only played 8 games, and coming into the season, he was a backup quarterback. He got pressed in the service as running back. They wanted to get him on the field, and they wanted to, find out, just get him some playing time somewhere. Some people felt like his future was at quarterback, but he had like 3 solid games early in the season, He almost went for 100 yards against Mississippi Valley. I think he ran for about 70 or 80 yards against Miles College, and he had a decent game against Texas Southern. But his game against UAPB, he ran for 274 and 3 touchdowns. He's a guy who still is learning this position. That's the one that I really always say to people about this kid is he's a guy who put up great numbers. Like I say, he finished fourth in the league in rushing, 79 carries, 629 yards, eight yards per carry, 4 touchdowns, as long with 75, and he averaged 78.6 yards per game. But this is a guy who is still learning how to play running back. Learning to pass protect in the pocket. Still learning how to hit holes. A lot of times you see young backs, they want to bounce it outside and look for stuff that's not outside when the hole is inside. He does have the benefit of playing with a very solid offensive line, so they opened the run up for him. Southern led the league in rushing for like the third straight year. The passing attack wasn't as good as it usually is, but he's a guy who benefited from some guys being banged up, some guys being out from time to time, and he made the most of it. Like I said, he played in 8 games and put up these numbers in 8 games. Now, I feel like he's still going to have to split carries. I mean, obviously, most backs will, probably other than like Caleb Johnson and Garrett Quarles. They don't split a lot of carries with guys, but he's going to split carries with a guy like Gerard Sims, who was hurt most of the season, still ran for over 250 yards, I think, and 3 or 4 touchdowns on the season. His numbers will increase because I expect him to be the number one back. Coach Dooley does want the backs to catch the ball at the backfield, so I expect both of them to have their reception numbers go up. I know Sims is a pretty good receiver out the backfield, so I expect him to, if healthy, to really be one of the top backs in the league. But that gives a team like Southern a 1-2 punch, and both of those guys are capable of hurting you. Like I said, Kobe Dillon is only going to get better at this position the longer that he plays it. I think, like I said, I think what gets lost in the shuffle with a lot of people is that he was not a running back at all, and he really was not expected to play and to come in and have the kind of games that he had in the early portion of the season is really great. Now, he tailed off a little later as he kind of got banged up a little, and the defenses got a little bit tougher. And the holes to run in some of those games weren't as big as they were previously, and also the fact that Gerard Sims came back late in the season, his numbers slid a little, but not enough to move him down. Like I say, top 5 in 8 games is crazy running ability. So I think this is a kid that's gonna get better. He's a potential all SWAC guy, but he's gonna have to split carries with a couple backs in Southern, and so his numbers may not be as spectacular as some of the other guys. Nico Duffy is a guy from Alcorn. He finished 5th in the league in rushing. He's a guy that can, he can catch the ball in the backfield. He didn't really have a lot of receptions last season. He's also a guy who can return kicks if you need him to, but he's a guy that can really bust a long run and be very explosive and run with some power when needed. He can hurt you in all aspects. And last year that offense was not as great as it had been in previous years, but he still was a guy who was able to have some good numbers. He ran the ball 160 times for 831 yards on the season, 5.2 yards per carry, and 4 touchdowns. He had a long of 65 on the season, and he averaged 75.5 yards per carry. Again, this is a guy who like I said, he split carries with Stafford Anderson last year, who also finished as the 6th leading rusher. So splitting that many carries with a guy and still being able to put up really good numbers, especially when you're the guy that people know is going to get the ball. He's a guy who's going to continue to do that, and like I said, he had some big plays all season, even though Alcorn's offense wasn't as great as people thought it was. And he's a guy who can easily, he can eat if he gets the carries. He can be a top a leading rusher in the league. He's a very dangerous back, and he's a guy I like to watch as well. So Alcorn definitely, with a new quarterback, is going to lean on him, and he can be versatile. He can do what the Braves need, and if he can get going, then the offense will be just fine, until the quarterback gets acclimated. This is a guy who can lead this team to a West Division championship if things go right. If the offensive line can block, last year offensive line had some issues, but still to put up the numbers that they did with that offensive line, if that line can get solidified, then his numbers will improve as well. Ladarius Owens is a guy who also is somebody that I think a lot of people don't really know about at Texas Southern. TSU's offense was spectacular last season. Just looking at some of their team numbers, they averaged they averaged 188 yards per game rushing on the season, which was second in the league. They had averaged 5.1 yards per carry, which led the league. They averaged 23. They had 23 touchdowns on the ground, which led the league. Passing offense, they were third in the league at 241 yards per game. Total offense, they were second in the league at 429 yards per game. And scoring offense, they were second at 29 points per game. So this was a very explosive offense that was young. And a lot of people didn't realize how good this offense was. When you sit there and look at numbers, you realize this is a very dangerous offense, and they have a lot of pieces coming back. Ladarius Owens, like I said, is probably one of the better unsung running backs in the league. He ran the ball 83 times for 624 yards, 7.5 yards per carry, and 5 touchdowns. He had a long of 64, average 62.4 yards per carry. This guy is an all SWAC running back. Now, he's playing with one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and easily right now the best quarterback in the West Division, Andrew Body, who coincidentally was the number 7 rusher in the league last season. So this is an offense that has 2 guys that can hurt you with their legs over 100 yards easily, either guy. And I expect his numbers to stay great as long as Andrew Body stays healthy. He ran the ball. Body ran the ball almost 100 times on the season for 642 and 5 touchdowns, 6.6 yards per carry. So that's a great compliment, and you have to account for your quarterback running the ball, which definitely is going to open up some things for Owens as they continue to build that chemistry together. This is a guy I really like, and I think a lot of attention will be on him more this season, which it would be well deserved. And I'm really excited to see what this offense does in another year. Now, they will have more eyes on them. I'm not saying that they can't replicate what they did last season, but they kind of came out of nowhere and caught people by surprise. But if they can continue to grow, this offense will be very dangerous. And that 1-2 punch running the football is definitely going to be a big factor in that. Another young back, Jaden Stewart from Prairie View, he was a freshman last season, 132 carries, 654 yards, 5 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns, 59 yards per game, and his long was 42. He actually went for over 100 yards against Texas A&M in that bloodbath that the Panthers had last season. He was basically their only offense. He's a guy, he split carries with Lindamian Brooks and a couple other backs last season, but he's a guy that you can lean on. He's a big body guy. He can get you those tough yards. He can break it. He may not bust an 80-yarder, but he's a guy that can move the chains, and he's tough to bring down. So with a new, I'll say with a new starter, because they have a couple of guys who've been on the team in previous years, but with a new starter at quarterback this season, they're gonna lean on the running game. New head coach, new everything. Having a back that can tote the load for you is definitely vital. And I think Jaden Stewart is a guy who can be a potential superstar in this league as well. He's a guy that I really like to see, explode. CJ Russell from Grambling is a guy that I've liked to watch play basically since like 2019. He's a guy who didn't put up crazy numbers because Grambling's offense really wasn't that good last season until the last game that they played when they really just ran roughshod in the Bayou Classic. But he ran the ball for 128 yards, 128 carries, 490 yards, 3.8 yards per carry, and 1 touchdown, 40 yards per carry, along with only 21. So didn't have a lot of big runs, but he was a guy that carried the ball a lot. 128 carries. It would that's the sixth most individual carries by any runner in the SWAC. So he did carry the ball quite a bit, and he did not get a lot of yardage, but he got a lot of carries, and I expect the offense to be. Hopefully, the offense will be a little bit more explosive. Now they will have a new quarterback coming into the season, so and a new offensive system. So I think this is a guy that you can lean on to get you the yardage that you need. Now he can break runs if the blocking is there. I've seen him do it. So if they can, I'm sure they're gonna have some other guys at running back as well because they brought in a lot of players. So there's gonna be a lot of competition for carries. But he's a guy that I think that can help this offense if they go to him. Terrell Jennings split carries basically as the second runner behind Bishop Barnett. Although he did have 120 carries, which, like I said, would make him would put him at. Oh, excuse me. I looked at the Terrell Jennings actually had 99 carries on the season. Excuse me. That is top 15 in the league as far as individual carries. Splitting time with Bishop Barnett, who was a very, very, very good running back at FAMU. A guy who almost ran for 1,000 yards himself his last season. So the attention will be on Jennings this year. He's a bigger guy, but he ran for 99 carries, 424 yards, 4.3 yards per carry, 4 touchdowns, along with 26 and 38.5 yards per carry. He's gonna get more carries with Bonnet being gone, and they're still trying to figure out their quarterback situation. He's the guy I think get more carries. I think he'll be a better factor in this offense. And they have some other backs that they're gonna work in the fold as well. But he's a good building block to keeping this offense going. A FAMU offense with a running game and those receivers that they have is very dangerous. So they have shown that they've been capable to score the points and move the ball even without a running game. But with that running game, the offense is just that much better. So I expect Jennings to put up better numbers throughout the season and definitely be a factor moving forward. Ja'Cory Merritt is a guy at Alabama State. Now he's not a huge guy in terms of height, but he's a strong back. He's not big in height and weight, but he's a guy who can get you those tough yards. He split time with Ezra Gray, who was basically the explosive slasher type guy. Merritt carried the ball 120 times on the season, so he actually had more carries than Gray, but Gray was more of the feature guy. 120 carries, 422 yards, 3.5 yards per carry, and 5 touchdowns for Merritt. Along with 45, he averaged 38.4 yards per game. Again, he's a guy that I really like to watch. He's a tough runner, but he can get loose. And with a new offense and a guy like Demetrius Davis, who most likely will be the quarterback, is gonna help open up this offense a lot. Merritt can definitely benefit from that, and I would not be surprised to see him put up better numbers if they focus on running the ball a bit more, because this offense didn't really have an identity last couple seasons. So a guy like this can help, and hopefully, he'll be able to put up some good numbers for the Hornets. And basically, the last guy that I'll talk about was a freshman last season, and he again split carries with a guy who finished on this list ahead of him, and that's Kayvon Britton from UAPB. He ran the ball 59 times for 231 yards, 3.9 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns on the season. Pine Bluff's offense just never got out of neutral last season. Skylar Perry really struggled with his passing. He threw the ball for about 50%. He completed like 50% of his passes, had a negative touchdown to interception ratio. Offense just was not as crisp as it should have been with the guys that they had returning. But their running game was not good in the spring either, spring of 2021. And it didn't really get much better. It got better incrementally, but not enough to really be a factor to make this offense click consistently. So, with Perry coming back, looking to improve, they have a couple other quarterbacks that they are high on. This is a guy who can help this offense get better if he gets carries, and I expect to see him do well as well. So, like I said, this to me is the year of the running back, and as you can see, there's a lot of great talent coming back. If you look at the top 10 rushers in the league from 2021, you're returning 7 of those 10, and a lot of these guys are very young. And that 7 includes Andrew Body at quarterback. So if you want to take him out and just say running backs, 6 of the top 10 uh, 6 of your top 10 leading rushers in the conference are returning, and that's an amazing number of guys coming back who put up really good numbers already. And like I said, these guys have various levels of experience, uh, and they can do all different things. And I'm excited to watch these guys put up some good numbers this season. As I said before, with a lot of new quarterbacks coming in, a lot of new offenses coming in, you really love to have a guy that you can trust to carry the ball for you. And that's this group of guys, man. I would love to line up with any of these guys that running back in my offense and definitely get them the ball, because I'm a guy who loves to run the ball. So I would love to have any of these guys play on my offense. And if you're a fan of these teams, or if you're just a SWAC fan, man, make sure you check out these guys, watch them play, go back and check out some of their past games, and see the work that they can put in, because quarterbacks, obviously get the glory, but running backs are a group of guys that probably should get more attention than they do, especially this group. So I just wanted to come in today and let you know 2022 is a year of the running back. Enjoy it, man. Y'all have a good day, good Mother's Day, and I'll catch y'all later. Catch y'all on Wednesday. Hit DJ on his Instagram for SWAC Smoke t-shirts. Hit me up on my IG, SWAC Smoke t-shirts. 2 for 20, 2 for 40, 1 for 25, black and white. Hit us up. We'll hook you up. With that being said, man, I'm up out of here. Y'all enjoy y'all day, and I'll catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.